Week 1 of the NFL. What did you see? What do you think? Whose season is over already? I think there's a few teams we can definitely already get up out the paint that are looking at, Roger Goodell asking them or telling them they're on the clock next April. There are definitely a few teams that already know what type of time it is for them already after week 1. But I can't do this type of work alone. You know what I'm saying? I need some help sometimes to kind of break this stuff down, give me a different POV, maybe make me remember something that might trigger a story or something for me. So to help me break down NFL Week 1, it's one of the homies. He's in the industry. He knows what he's talking about when it comes to football. He also has some hot takes, so he kind of reminds me of myself a little bit when I was first tapping in, doing content. But he's someone that I think you should be paying attention to. So want to give him a platform, want to give him a spotlight to grace y'all, to get his shit off, to be able to get his content out there and see if he can survive it. Because I got some heat for him if he comes crazy here. It talks a little too crazy. I got some heat for him. Me and him have already had some debates off air. So we'll see what happens now on air. So let me go ahead and bring in the guest. He is the homie. Terrence Williams is in the house. T, what is good? Welcome into the Sandy podcast and Timeline T.
What's going on, my man? I appreciate it.
Bruh, NFL Week 1, a lot happened. I'll just get this out the way. QB play was trash across the board outside of a handful of examples. You can give me Baker Mayfield if you want. Mahomes is him. He's Himothy. We know what it is with him. But when we're talking about Jalen Hurts, when we're talking about Joe Burrow, maybe even some people want to trash Lamar. I've seen that off of that Thursday game. The big name, Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, how many targets, Kyler?
One? Was it one? Did they blame it on the OC?
Huh? Okay. So mediocre QB play across the board. That's step 1. Then we have the Tyreek Hill nonsense that almost ruined a lot of fantasy lineups as, man just out here face down, handcuffed, outside the crib, outside of Hard Rock Stadium, mere hours before kickoff, bruh.
I was going to lose week 1 of you because of that. I was worried.
Man, I had him in another league, and I was almost in that same spot. Like, that man needs to get up off that ground, dust himself off, and go in there and strap on them pads now. Like, I still need him 20, 30 points. I made
the change early. I was like, let me go ahead and take him out. And then I heard he was going to play. I was like, let me switch it right back in there.
Put him right back in. I feel you. So, that obviously was a thing. Talking about surprises, winners, losers. I don't want to get into all of that yet because, it's 1 week, dog. It's extremely small sample size. And to be quite honest, a lot of these dudes didn't play preseason. So to me, this felt like preseason football. Watches so many ineffective offenses, watches so many erratic passes. Kirk Cousins down there in the A. Is he still hurt? Are we starting to see signs of him being washed? I don't know what that was in the A, but it didn't look good. Whatever that was, it didn't look that much better than Desmond Ridder back there for the last couple of seasons for the Falcons. So again, another QB that we thought is good, or at least good enough, spitting the bit out there in week 1. I'm going to lay it out for you. You tell me which storyline you want to tap into first, but a lot of interesting storylines coming out of week 1.
Yeah, man, I'm going to go ahead and tap in with the Falcons, man. I just believe coming in, especially at the back half of the offseason and coming into the beginning of the preseason, they made a lot of strong moves, man, helping that defense out and trying to secure some of these offensive weapons as well. So you thought, okay, maybe the Falcons got a chance to win their division. But I don't want to jump on the gun, like you said. But after seeing that week 1, I don't know, man. I don't know. Kirk just don't look like he can move. Like he was barely moving as it was. But that man looked hobbled back there in that pocket. So I don't know, man. I'm a little scared of it, honestly.
As you mentioned, this is a team that thought they were a QB away. That they were a QB and a better coach away. They did both things. They got a new QB, new coach, same talent level for the most part. And they thought, all right, now we could put a real system in here that's a pass first system, or at least a more dynamic attacking system, opposed to what your man's Arthur Smith was doing the last few years. So now we thought, all right, we're going to open this offense up. I still see Drake London doing the same stick, hitch, intermediate stuff. Cal Pitts, 3 receptions and a bullshit blown coverage touchdown. Bajan wasn't even that much of a factor either, and it wasn't like they were trying to establish. I couldn't get any type of feel of what they were trying to do offensively, and obviously the video of Kirk Cousins is dropbacks and how bad he looked and how bad his footwork looked and how he still might be feeling the effects of that injury. Like, to talk to me about what you saw from Kirk Cousins. Do you think he's still hurt?
I personally don't think it's more so of an injury thing. I think it's a confidence thing. Because when you have a big injury like that, especially being at that age, you kind of second guess yourself. Like, oh, do I still got it? Can I still move? Can I get playing off that back foot and make this throw? And I think that's what's going on here. I personally think he's just being more cautious to his legs and everything. So, and also I think it's also just because it's a new offense, man. Like, you got to give him a little bit of time to work it out. It's week 1. Everybody's rusty, but you expected to see a lot more than that. And just to see the way Kurt was moving in that pocket, it didn't look good, man. It didn't look comfortable at all. So you would think they would hand the ball off to their cowbell, but he only finished with 68 yards on the ground. So I don't know, man. There's a lot of questions on that offense for sure.
Yeah, it was not a good looking offensive day across the board, but specifically for that team, because that team with London, with Pitts, with Bajan, you would have thought, all right, it's not necessarily just turn on the switch and now you're dropping 30, but it's like, okay, I want to flip a switch and I should see exciting plays, vertical plays down the field, dynamic passing plays. Let me see some sluggos, like something that's a little bit more dynamic than just the same intermediate stuff, the same ground and pound stuff that we got from Arthur Smith over the last 4 or 5 years. So that to me was one of the more surprising things, is that the Falcons just, even when they do the right thing, they go give Kirk the bag. Now, maybe they shouldn't have given him that much money, but you needed a QB upgrade. And you unless they knew they were going to get Penix, which was not in hindsight and automatic, because the Raiders were right there waiting and willing. They could have moved up to try to get him if they would have known the Falcons were going to take him at 8. But just in the sense of, do you think that they made a mistake in the sense of handing the keys over to Kirk and paying him all this bread when they kind of had a good idea that they were going to spin the block and go get Penix at 9? So should they have done that? Because you don't really know what's left with Kirk, especially off that injury.
I can understand why you take the gamble on Kirk, because if you're looking at the market at the time, it wasn't honestly looking that well for these veteran quarterbacks. So I understand why you go out and go get them, but to pay them all that money coming off an Achilles injury this big, that's why I don't understand. Especially like you said, if you knew you were going to go in the draft and go draft a quarterback. So I personally wouldn't have paid him that much, but maybe that's what it takes to bring him to Atlanta. Maybe he wasn't going to come without the bag. So, but at that point, it's like, all right, man, you better perform. And then so you bring in a rookie quarterback, hoping puts a little bit more fire in his butt, makes him want to go. Like, oh, you bringing in this rookie quarterback? I'm coming off an injury. You think you're gonna take my spot? You hope to give him a little momentum, but I don't know, man. I don't think it's working out for him right now. I don't want to say the head coach is on the hot seat just because it's only week 1. But my personal thinking is, if you draft a quarterback in the first round, if I'm not mistaken, it was the first round. You draft him that early, then I'm not saying you got to look at you got to press the red button yet. But if I was them, I'll at least be looking at it like by 4 or 5. If this ain't working out, week 4 or 5, this ain't working out, I'm looking at that red button like, maybe we should make that QB change. Let's see what we got. We already see what we got with Kurt. Let's see what we got with Michael Penix.
Man, I'm not saying I don't agree. I think at some point, especially if Kirk's going to look like this, we can give Kirk the benefit of the doubt that it's week 1. He's coming off a leg injury that was horrific, and he had to rehab just to get back to be able to start week 1. All of that I understand. I also understand the window closes smaller every single day with London, Bajan, and Pitts on these rookie contracts. And that's how you can really make hay in this league, because you can't be spending money at all these other positions and the QB. So the clock is also ticking on Penix, by the way. So
Yeah.
all these windows are closing every single game. Every single game that Kirk Cousins is back there midding everything up. Your window is closing small on London, Pitts, Bijan, and even out Penix. I agree they're going to have to take a look at Penix probably this year as opposed to next year. I think the plan was, if Kirk is Kirk, Penix ain't seeing the field.
Yeah, it's seeing the whole year.
But if Kirk ain't Kirk, you can't be scared to say, all right, OG, you can go onto the sideline. You still going to get your 100 M's. You good.
Yeah.
You always cash money at the bank. But we need to see what the fuck is good with Penix.
Yeah, we need to know our identity of the team, and I think that's their biggest problem right now. What are the Atlanta Falcons' offense? What's the identity? And outside of, we know we got Bijan, everything else is a question mark.
Right. If Kirk Cousins can't throw, I mean, at least in Minnesota, he had Justin Jefferson, he's had Stephon Diggs, he's had guys.
Yeah.
And those guys were able to get vertical. At some point, whether it's now the third QB,
Right.
is Drake London a vertical threat or nah? Because I keep seeing him doing intermediate stuff. Is he a possession guy or nah? Like, are we hyping him? Are we assuming he's something that he's not?
I'm starting to think Drake London's just not a number one receiver. That's my honest opinion. I think he needs another guy with him.
Okay, what if he's okay? So here's my thing to that. I don't mind if he's your number one, but if he's your number one, he's got to be the number one at what he does best. After 3-4 years, I still don't know what that is, because he's had Marcus Mariota, he's had Desmond Ridder, like he's had mediocre QB play. So I still don't know if he's a vertical threat. I don't know if he's just a big target guy. I don't know if he's a seam guy. I don't know if he's a slot guy. I just don't know. Obviously, he's a big, tall, vertical threat in theory.
In theory, yeah.
But in actuality, right now, he's just looking like a dude that's just, 6'2", 6'3". He catches the ball sometimes, but he's not breaking tackles. He's not shaking dudes. He's not high pointing the ball. I don't know what he is.
Yeah. And that just leaves a lot of questions, like you said. So, I mean, personally, I don't even know what he is either. Like, they say he's a wide receiver number one. He has a lot of upside, but we just haven't seen it on the film yet. But I feel like this has to be the year for him, because, like you said, he's had questionable quarterbacks in the past that, like, who's throwing him the ball and who's making these mistakes. So with Kirk Cousins coming in, we've always known one thing about Kirk Cousins. He's going to get the ball to his number one receiver, whether it was Diggs, Justin Jefferson, even when he was with the Redskins. Like, the guy's going to give this guy the ball. So my thing this year is, I think it's on Drake London to really take that number one role and step up. Like, be the wide receiver you want to be, honestly. Like, there's been way too many questions. It's now or never, in my opinion. It's now or never with Drake London. I got to figure out, what do we have here?
Yeah, I mean, I'm over here looking at his stats. 3 targets in week 1, and even if you go and average it out, 16 games last year, 110 targets. That's not a good average, bro. That's not even 10 targets a game. That's, if you're a number one, as you know, my adage on all my content is, if you're a number one wide receiver, you need to be getting minimum 10. Minimum.
Yeah, seriously. Like, your running back is leading you in rushing and reception.
It just doesn't make any sense. Like, why get rid of Arthur Smith? Why get rid of Arthur Smith if it's going to be all Bijan everything, regardless of who's coaching, regardless who's the OC, then why? Why even get rid of Arthur Smith?
That's the easiest thing to plan for, too. If you know you have to game plan for one player and then the rest of the players are just question marks, that's easy.
Just dudes. Yeah,
it's just dudes. So, honestly, you take away Bijan, then, okay, you're going to make Kirk Cousins play. And then at that point, at this age, off that injury, that's really hard to do. So, yeah, man, Drake London, like you said, though, 2 receptions, 15 yards, it's not going to work,
bad.
Man. As a number
it's
one,
bad, bro.
Number
and,
one,
and you're talking about Drake London 3 targets, talking about Cal Pitts 3 targets. Yeah. These supposed to be the guys.
Yeah.
These are top 10 picks.
And this is
These
my
ain't guys you just discovered in the draft and you turned them into something. No, these are guys that were highly touted. Pitts was the third pick. He was a third pick overall.
yeah.
Drake London was a top 10 pick. Bajan was a top 10 pick. And Ray McLeod's the guy in week 1. Ray McLeod.
Come on, man. People not even drafting that dude in fantasy.
Bruh.
But that's my thing. I don't know with Drake London. I think he needs to have a little bit more of that wide receiver diva. Like, as a number 1 wide receiver, if you're not getting the ball, you're supposed to go straight to the head coach after the game. What's up, man? I could be a better asset to this team. What do we got to do?
Yeah.
Let's game plan to get me better. I've never heard or even seen Drake London do anything like that. So at that point, it's like, do you want to be the number 1 receiver?
I mean, he looks like he could be Mike Evans 2.0, but he's not even 1.0. He's not even 0.5. Like, he's just not.
No dog in him.
And flipping over to the other side, they take the L at the crib to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who don't score a touchdown, 6 field goals. Mike Tomlin finds a way to steal another one. Bruh.
The Mike Tomlin way, man.
Mr. Unlimited does not play, but he still suits up. He was inactive, but still suited up.
Makes no sense to me, man.
Justin Fields, the enigma that is Justin Fields. So, as a former Bear fan, I always still keep an eye on what's going on in Chicago, even though I don't support them, I don't follow them. I still keep an eye on them. I thought they gave up on him too soon. Now, right. I could be wrong in hindsight. I could be wrong 5 years. Caleb can really be the next Mahomes, and it makes everything that they did look smart. Or, if we actually talk about how Caleb looked the other day, we will get there. But
it's week 1.
It's week 1. That boy looks scared in the pocket. That boy looks scared in the pocket.
Running around left and right, backyard football. Hey, just trying to get out of it.
So Justin Fields goes out there, and at times, again, he flashes some throws and some awareness, some pocket presence that make you say, see, look, maybe he can in the right system, right people behind him supporting him, kind of like the whole Tua thing. He needs the right people to be giving him that encouragement, all that type of shit. You think, okay, maybe. And then he makes some throws and doesn't feel the pocket collapsing around him and hold on to the ball too damn long and misses reads, and you're just like, I don't know what to make of you, bro. Like, I don't know what you are. I don't know what you are. He might be the most perfect fringe starter in NFL history, where it's like you could start him a game or two, but you can't hand him the keys. You hand him the keys, it's a wrap. Unless honestly, you just do it like the Bears did a couple of years ago, but they literally had nothing else and just said, hey, just run for your life and then just run. Don't think about throwing. Just run for 2,000 yards, and then you'll be a guy that we think could be a franchise QB. But talk to me about what you saw from Justin Fields and the Steelers.
Honestly, what I saw from Justin is like you can put a lot of blame on Justin Fields and what he's done, but we also got to look at the rest of that offense. Who's he throwing the ball to? Who's running the ball for him? Like, outside of George Pickens, we had his tight end.
Freiermuth.
Yeah, Freiermuth, 4 targets, 4 catches. Outside of that, everything else was pretty even across the board with a bunch of 2s and 1s, but he doesn't really have a guy. So, like, when you get out on the field, at least most quarterbacks, they know, okay, if I get in trouble, shit hits the fan, I at least know I can go look over here, and that's my guy. He doesn't have one of those on the field besides George Pickens, and half the times George Pickens is fighting with the corners more than running a route. So with Justin Fields, I think it's a work in progress still. I feel like they did give up on him early in Chicago, but rightfully so, just because when you have Caleb Williams coming in and all that hype, yeah, man, I probably would have made the move too. But I think this situation with him is, I don't think they were even expecting him to be the starting quarterback week 1. So for him to be thrown into that role that early, it was kind of like you throw him in there, you just throw your hands up and say, good luck. That's what I saw on film, because it didn't look pretty good at all.
No. And again, if you just look at these numbers, you can trick yourself. Hey, man, 17-23, $156. By the way, that is a nasty average. 17 completions, 156 yards. That's why I call it the National Checkdown League, because this is what you're getting. This is now considered okay QB play. It's all about the completion percentage. It's not about yards. It's not about pushing the ball down the field. It's about, hey, just dump it off. Dump it off. I'll take the 2-yard completion. Don't take the sack. Don't take the incompletion. Don't force the throw because it might get picked, yada, yada, yada. This is what the NFL has turned into, the NCDL, the National Checkdown League. Najee Harris, 20 carries. So at least I'll say this about Justin. He knows when to run.
Yeah.
When all else fails, he's getting the hell up out of Dodge, and he is running for his life. Yeah. Like that's still his biggest weapon. But as you mentioned, in terms of those, receiving weapons, you had the Pickens, you had the Freiermuth. They did get rid of the Deontay Johnson, who could have been more of a diva that you were talking about, like, haven't seen that from Drake London. You definitely have seen that from Deontay Johnson, and that's why he's in Carolina. But the lack of weapons, Darnell Washington was supposed to be a thing, but they keep bulking him up to be like almost like a sixth lineman instead of letting him show you that he could be a big that can also be athletic and catch the rock. I don't know what they're doing with him.
Yeah, man, I was pretty high on Darnell coming out of college when he came out of Georgia. So
I mean, he looked the part.
He looked the part, and to see him in that one tight end drill where they're doing the pass blocking, and no one can move the sled, and then Darnell gets up there and he just demolishes the thing. You're like, yeah, man, this dude's gonna be a guy. But to see he's not even developing on the wide receiver part, running better routes and catching these balls, I don't even think they are paying attention to him. Like that guy can be an asset to the team, but I think honestly it's just a schematic and game plan thing. I don't think they're game planning these guys right. And I love and respect Mike Tomlin, but that was probably one of the biggest questions I had this offseason was you've seen Arthur Smith in that offense. Why would you hire him as your OC? That's my biggest question there.
Well, if you're doing Steelers football, their whole thing is ground and pound. That's been their legacy, right? Like even when they had the 2-time rapist Big Ben as the QB, the offense wasn't necessarily air raid. Even when they had Antonio Brown and Hines Ward and even Plaxico back in the day, like it wasn't like we're going to air it out. They still everything began and ended with we're running the ball. Yeah. We're passing off the runs. We're hitting you with the play action. So I think Arthur Smith fits that. Like if you're going to play traditional Steeler football, then that's what you're going to get. And I see why they did it because you don't want to bring in a coordinator. And Mike Tomlin is very savvy about playing the game, the politics of why he has remained employed in a tumultuous era for black coaches in the NFL. You don't want to hire a coordinator that can actually replace you. Like you don't want to set up the next guy to take your gig. So he knows he's in transition. He knows, like, look, Mr. Unlimited ain't it. And Justin Fields was like a 1-year flyer. Maybe we'll catch lightning in a bottle type shit. But we know this ain't it either. We got rid of Kenny Pickens and all of that Pickett. So we know that ain't it. I got some problems here. I'm going to retool. I'm retooling on the fly. What I can't have is a dude that's nice as a coordinator that's waiting to swoop in and get me up out of here. So go get the Arthur Smith because Pittsburgh ain't stupid. They know Arthur Smith ain't it either. So even if Tomlin has that first ever losing season, they're not going to get Tomlin up out of there because who they going to break in there? Belichick?
There's too many questions around that too, man. You let a head coach go like him, you got to be able to fill him with some big shoes, man, because that's a big role to fill, especially with he left and that legacy there.
Let's slide to another team that has a lot of promise. A lot of fanfare, made some splashy moves in the offseason. It went out there, and don't let this score fool you. This game was not as close as it looked. The Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray. You can speak to how his mythology has been built from way back yonder in high school to now, but Kyler Murray's supposed to be in that class. He's maybe not top tier with a Josh Allen, with a Lamar or Mahomes, but he's supposed to be somewhere in that second grouping of guys. Has yet to really fulfill that promise, but we all just keep assuming, well, it's not necessarily on him per se. Look at the help. He had an old DeAndre Hopkins. He had the whole Cliff Kingsbury trying to bring the air raid to the league. It didn't work, and that crashed and burned. But they went out there in last year's draft, not this past year's, but the 2023 draft, went out there and got him some offensive line help that he helped orchestrate behind the scenes. Then they got, what was it, Levi Johnson, or Paris Johnson. They went out there and get that. And then now this year, they have arguably the best player in the draft fall to them at the 3 spot in Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, I'm going to go down and scroll here to this box score and see how many targets, which we already spoke about briefly in the intro, but how many targets the 3rd overall pick got in week 1. Marvin Harrison Jr., 1 reception. Uno. 1 more than me and you.
Makes no sense, my man.
3 targets. Greg Dortch got 8 targets. James Conner, 4 targets. Trey McBride, 9 targets. The number 3 overall pick, 3 targets.
3 targets.
Make it make sense. What the hell happened to Kyler Murray, and what do you think is going to continue to happen going forward with Kyler Murray?
Honestly, man, I think Kyler's biggest issue, it's a maturity thing, in my opinion. I think his leadership skills haven't honestly lived up to where he wants to be, just because with Arizona, you have a lot of not even a lot, honestly. You got a defensive player there, you got your quarterback there, but there's a lot of questions behind that offense just because Kyler hasn't stepped up, like you said, into the role that he wants to be. And the box score looked great in the first half. They were up, they were leading, but you still had so many questions on that offense. And I think it's honestly has to all fall back on Kyler, just because at the end of the game, you see the post-game interview and they talk about Marvin Harrison, how many targets he had. And he automatically points the finger at the OC. And honestly, I just don't believe you do that. As if you're in a National Football League and you're the star quarterback of the team, you have to be the guy, and you have to be the one that takes the good and the bad. You got to take the blame for it as well. So for him to just straight up sit there and say, like, I don't know, man, you got to ask the OC that, I don't call the plays. Like, I thought that was kind of weak, honestly. And even at that, you just drafted this guy, number 3 in the draft, and he's a dog. You only going to throw him the ball 3 times just because they say, hey, we're going to target him that many times? Nah, man, if I know that's my guy, I'm deviating a little bit. I'm rolling out. I'm going to find my guy, man. But it doesn't even look like they were trying to do that. But once again, it's week 1. Give it time. But those are one of my ones I will probably hit the panic button on. I'm hitting the panic button on Arizona right now.
So I went back and rewatched this game, and I was really trying to figure out what was missing, what was wrong. And I think with Kyler, he didn't run a lot. He only ran the ball 5 times according to the box score, but it's the happy feet. He gets very nervous in that pocket. And I'm not sure, look, we know his size was always going to be a thing, pause. But I don't know, the Kyler Murray from like 2 years ago when it looked like, oh shit, he's taking a step. And then he got hurt. And then kind of battled through injuries last year and just being ineffective, and the whole COD thing always kind of is lurking there in the background. Does he care more about COD than the playbook? All the narratives are still there, and he hasn't done too much to kind of dispel those narratives. But it's almost like I felt like he was trying to take over the game when he didn't have to. Right. But it was weird because his way of taking over the game, I think he felt was, well, let me get out the pocket. And while I'm not going to say the offensive line was great in that game, I don't felt like he was under the pressure that he felt he was under in that pocket. Like he was trying to get out that pocket way more than I felt he needed to, and that just broke plays down.
Yeah.
But here's the problem with that. If you're outside the pocket, you now have Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm sure you don't need to have 20 years of experience together to know, hey, when I escape that pocket, You go, break off the route, come back to me, something. If you're telling me that now is a thing where we got to wait till week 6 for them to develop that chemistry of Marvin Harrison he was born for this role. He was born to be a number one wideout. He knows if his quarterback is escaping the pocket to either work back towards the quarterback or to break the route off and go deep to give your quarterback somebody to throw the ball to. Twice that happened. Twice Kyler didn't throw it. That doesn't sound like a Marvin Harrison Jr. problem. How much longer do we want to give this until it looks like this is a Kyler Murray problem?
I personally think it'll have to do with the franchise. The franchise has to make a decision. Is he your guy? Is he your number one player on your team? I think just because it's still early on, Marvin's still early in his career, that you're not going to be able to figure that out yet. But I think those questions might start to arise eventually in a few years. Do we build around Kyler? Do we build around Marvin? Like, where do we go from here? And I think that it's coming up sooner rather than later for Kyler, just because he hasn't done much. If you go look at the resume, yeah, you got some cool wins, some big moments, like some big plays, but overall, like, man, you haven't done anything in the NFL to prove that you deserve to be that top tier quarterback like you say you are. So, and I think that all goes into his preparation, how he works out through the week, how he deals with the team. So it's just a lot of questions once again, like you said. But if I'm Arizona, I don't know, man. I feel like it's not a make or break year for him. But like you said, if we have to wait till week 6, 7 to get these easy chemistry throws and everything to come on, it's gonna be a long season for these dudes, man.
Agreed. All right, I'll let you dictate where we go next. We could go down to Houston, Indy, and talk about the QBs there and some of the things we saw there, or we could finally get down to South Beach and tap into all of that nonsense.
Let's tap into the nonsense, man. South Beach.
All right, so the Dolphins take care of business. Trevor Lawrence. I mean, both him and Tua looked mid to me, but I mean, in theory, they both got the bag. They both got paid. They both are being paid like franchise QBs. Miami takes it 20-17. Late field goal gets it done at the crib. But that was all overshadowed because the star player, Tyreek Hill, was face down on the concrete outside of Hard Rock Stadium mere hours before kickoff. So we know what that was about. We're not going to sit here and tap dance around that. We know why that happened. But what happened in this game, is this more about the Dolphins or more about the Jaguars in the ending result?
I'm going to have to say this is definitely more on the Miami Dolphins. Just because, honestly, you're not supposed to see that game be that close. Not saying that the Jaguars aren't a team that can compete. You expected more out of Miami. Yeah, it looked good for them in the second half because, they made some clutch plays to come back. But there's still a lot of questions around them. I'm still not convinced on Tua. That's still my biggest question. Like,
okay.
I'm just not convinced on him. I think the jury's still out on him, but I think he also just gets bailed out a lot just because, look who he's throwing the ball to. If you throw the ball to Tyreek Hill, that's an easy thing to do. You just find him and just let him go. So I think that's what's saving him a lot of the times. But this team has the opportunity to be good and be really maybe win their division with Buffalo taking a step back, in my personal opinion. But it all depends on Tua. Does Tua finally take that next step? Does he become that clutch quarterback in those playoff moments when you need him most, or does he still have that same issue that he's had the past few years?
Yeah, this game to me again. You're looking at someone that Trevor Lawrence, 12 of 21, 162 yards. Again, the overwhelming theme of week 1 was these QBs is mid, bro. These QBs are mid now. We can give them all, or at least a majority of them, one of the more high-profile ones, the benefit of the doubt because most of them didn't really play at all in preseason, or if they did, very little. So this is really preseason week 1 for these teams, which I think to me is a larger scale. Let's jump to that real quick. Give me your opinions on if teams are going to continue to just rest starters during preseason. A, what's the point of preseason? But 2, how do you get starters ready if they're never playing in preseason and then all of a sudden week 1 turn on the switch and then be 100% at maximum level? That just seems a little bit, illogical to me. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's illogical too, just because honestly, it's never going to happen. I believe like week 1 is always going to be a slow start for most teams, unless you have your Kansas City Chiefs who might start on the right foot. But besides that, most teams aren't going to have a decent week 1 just because their starters aren't started. You pay these players all that money. Honestly, I can understand where GM's coming from. Not touching that field in the preseason. I can understand we may not have all of our chemistry looking right, but I pay you how much money this offseason? You want to go out here and play 3/4 in a preseason game? Nah, man, I'm good on that. So me personally, I wouldn't start him until week 1.
If the games count week 1,
right, which they do,
why would you not have them play at all and then expect, because again, it's the shortest amount of games in any professional sport. There's only 17 of them. You can't wait till week 5 to hit a rhythm because you didn't already potentially tricked off a quarter of your season already. Yep. So why waste the 4 weeks of preseason by just having them stand there on the sidelines? Maybe have a couple of, scrimmages or whatever the case. That's not real football.
Yeah.
Real football is actually playing the game 100 miles an hour. So you're not doing that. There's no way to simulate that. You can do all the simulations you want. You can't simulate game speed. So if you're going to have them continuously to sit, which I'm not saying don't do. I understand that's the case. You want to protect your investment. Cool, but you're also hindering getting the ROI, the return on your investment, because the first 4 weeks are going to look like these stats. Trevor Lawrence is going to look like this until week 6. And then we're going and then we're going to get back into the whole thing of, wow, how good is Trevor Lawrence? I don't know. Maybe let them play a few games in preseason. Let them play the first 2 weeks, then shut them down the last 2. Then maybe it'll take them till week 3 to be ready instead of week 6. Give them some games. And I understand you want to protect the investment. You don't want him to get hurt. I'm fully aware of that. But Michael Jordan played preseason. Walter Payton played preseason. Tom Brady played preseason. Like, there's going to come a point where you have to play.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, they probably should play a few games in the preseason. I mean, not even full games like some teams do. Like maybe a couple of series or 2 and a couple games. But honestly, I understand on why not wanting to take the risk. And yeah, you're gonna take a hinder. You're gonna take a hinder to it when week 1 comes around because you're not gonna be in the groove that you want to be in. But that's what you pay these guys for. So I feel like it's on them to also get in that groove. I'm not saying you have to get real game live refs all the time, but man, you can be doing things outside of this facility to continue to give that chemistry and come and mold to one. But me personally, I just don't like the idea of playing my starters in the preseason, except for maybe 1 or 2 games, and that's 2-3 drives each, and that's probably it. I'm sitting them down for the rest of the time.
All right, so we have clearly a thing here with the Tyreek Hill piece of it. Everyone and their mama is tapping in on that. But for me, I want to talk more about the game because I think the game here really has a lot of things to discuss.
Definitely.
This team, the Dolphins, are thought to be a team that can surprise in the AFC. Not just the AFC East, but surprise in the AFC. Did you see anything from week 1? And again, we know it's week 1, small sample size, blah, blah, blah. Did you see anything in week 1 that make you think, okay, this Dolphin team is better than what they were last year?
Personally, no. I think It's kind of the same team, and just because honestly, I think their biggest factor is going to be the identity of that defense, and I'm still trying to figure that out. Just because, like you said, it was week one.
Oof.
We already know what the offense is going to be. We know they're going to have flashy passes. We know they're going to have speed. It's going to kill for Miami. But at the other, you got to have something on the other end of the ball. And you got some players coming back from injury, and you lost some players too, like Christian Wilkins. That was one of your biggest losses, honestly, in my opinion. So I think it's not going to be just one side of the ball. It's not just going to be on Tua. It's also going to be on that defense. And right now, it kind of looks like the same team, just because when you look at the offense and you look at the box score, you're like, oh yeah, 2 100-yard receivers. You know, you got Tua throwing for 300 yards. Yeah, it looks the same. It sounds like about right for Miami. But when you actually watching the game and then watching their defense, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's still a lot of questions in there, but I personally still believe they can pull it out and win this division.
I want this team to be better than Buffalo.
Right. I want them to. On paper, honestly, especially on offense, in my personal opinion, they look a lot better on paper on offense. And that's why I believe they can still edge it out, just because Josh Allen, outside of Keon Coleman and one other receiver, man, is still questions out there. When you go look at Miami's offense, there's no question. You know who's getting the ball.
Right. And McDaniels is highly thought of. I want them to be good, but to your point, it's the defense for me. I'm not sold on the defense, even though I love Calais Campbell, especially after him, being a homie and down to get arrested with Tyreek Hill. Yeah, so salute to Calais Campbell. Christian Wilkins is a huge loss. Calais Campbell, him being able to get a sack proves that he still got it, but we're not going to sit here and act like he's still in his prime. He's on the back half of his career. He's on that journeyman phase of his career. Jalen Ramsey, yes. So I think as much as I want this team to be better than Buffalo, the defense will always be the question mark for me, because Jalen Ramsey, to me, is still good. He's not shut down good. Not much is expected out of this front line. Like, I think getting Phillips back, as you see, he was able to get a sack here. So clearly they were able to get after the QB, but I think that's more about the Jaguars offensive line than it is necessarily the Dolphins D line. But this team should be good. This team should be damn near AFC East winning good. But that defense will, to me, be the Achilles heel. And then also, low-key, I mean, again, watching back that game, as good as these numbers look for Tua, he left some yards out there.
You always leave some yards out there, man. It's like he kind of panics in situations. Well, I understand, man. You got 400-pound D linemen coming at you, but, man, you got to understand, bro. In the National Football League, you got to be able to sit in that pocket and make a read, and sometimes that means taking a hit.
I don't. He has a hive that's weird. It's almost like the Kobe hive, where it's like Tua can do no wrong. And I'm like, well, at least with Kobe, he won rings, so I get why you prop him up. Tua's done what? Especially in the league. You would talk to me about college Tua? College Tua, different story. But we're talking about league. League Tua. League Tua, you caping for that? You hiving for that?
Yeah,
it's very weird.
I can understand. Yeah, you want to be faithful to your fan base and everything, man. But it's like I say about Dak Prescott. I love the man, second in MVP last year. But when it matters the most, he doesn't show up. And that's how the same thing I feel about Tua. When it matters the most, he does not show up.
Well, shit. Let's go ahead and go there. He did show up in Cleveland.
Man.
He showed up in Cleveland.
He did his thing, man.
He showed up in Cleveland now. So
season, man. It's always in the regular season.
Hey, look. You beat whoever's in front of you. You beat whoever's in front of you. And the Browns with Nasty Man, who continues to be nasty as more and more reports keep coming out. Nasty Man was mid as hell, 45 dropbacks. That's problematic. But Dak, 19 of 32. You don't like these yards. But again, you're talking about there's been QBs all across week one. All of them are damn near under 200 yards. This is like the fourth game or fifth game in a row where a starting QB, that's a pretty, very good to great QB, is under 200 yards passing in week 1. But Zeke. Zeke back?
40 yards, man.
No. Zeke back? Hey, look, he always good for 4.
Stop.
He always good for 4. You know that.
Yeah, man. And then honestly, he impressed me. I thought we would see.
I was about to say, like, don't come on here trying to trash Dak now. I mean, Zeke now. Like he was outside. He was outside moving the pile. Yeah, man. He's there for short yards. He got the tutty. Like, come on now.
Had a little hurdle. I saw the hurdle.
Yeah, man. You said he back. He back. The crop top ain't back yet, but soon.
So yeah, man. I mean, he looked decent out there. Honestly, it impressed me a little bit more than what I expected it to look like. But I think that's also just a testament to our O-line and just what we do as the Dallas Cowboys in developing O-linemen. Like, we had a rookie left tackle out there, man, and he was taking on Myles Garrett, and he did pretty well, in my personal opinion. He gave up
very
one
impressive
sack, I want to say. Yeah, a couple of pressures. But to go against Myles Garrett, if I'm telling a rookie left tackle, hey, we're going to put you up against Myles Garrett week 1, the rest of the season, I'm not saying it should be easy, but you should have a good experience. I'm like, okay, I know how this most is going to go down, because Myles Garrett is one of the most dangerous guys to go against, in my humble opinion. He has the total package.
Top tier,
man. So to see him go out there and play that well, it brings you a good sign. It gives you a good sign to know, like, okay, that O-line, man, is still the testament of the Dallas Cowboys. If that O-line is good, that offense will move. But then again, there's always questions on the defense. We look good one week, we stop the run, but then a couple weeks later, we don't even know how to stop a cold.
I'll say this. I think the biggest thing when y'all defense, I mean, I know last year you had some injuries, but 2 years ago when y'all defense was menacing and really getting after people, it was sacks and turnovers. What the hell did y'all do on Sunday? Sacks and turnovers. If that game, it should be cakewalk for y'all, because that offense going to score. That offense going to score. So if you're creating pressure with sacks, with between Lawrence and Micah, and even now Eric Kendricks is in the mix. They've unearthed something with Eric Kendricks, who's on the back half.
Yeah. I didn't know he had much in the gas tank, but I was like, okay.
So, okay, if you found something there, then all right, cool. Now, if that can continue, now Overshawn is getting the highlights, he's getting the viral clips going, sideline to sideline burning. But if that's a thing, the weapons you have, attack. If that's going to be the defense, I'm here for it. I'm here to say y'all can get Philly up out the paint. I'm ready to say it. I'm almost ready to say it. If the defense is going to be like that, because to me that defense is better than Philly right now. Mm-hmm. So if the defense is going to be like that, then it's a different conversation in the East now. Because I assumed the defense would be mediocre. We don't know. And plus, you lose Bland. We get Diggs back, but then you lose Bland. All right, it's kind of a wash there. You still don't have your full complement. But if you're getting home like this, Bland, that loss isn't that big now. So yeah. I'm almost ready to do it, but obviously it's week 1. But that to me is my biggest week 1 overreaction. I'm ready to say the NFC East should be the Dallas Cowboys is to lose if this defense plays like this.
I'm not going to go there. Only reason I won't go there is just because Philly has some question marks on their defense. So they have some guys that need to step up, and I feel like as the season goes on,
secondary is not good.
Yeah, that secondary, but that secondary
is not good.
Yeah, it's trash. But they got some questions going along, and so I think as
Cooper DeJean might have to start.
I was expecting him to start. I didn't think.
I mean, they need him to start.
Yeah, I was honestly expecting that, man.
Gardner Johnson, it's been real.
How much money did they pay him though? I mean, you got at least playing week 1, man. He's supposed to be the guy back there.
Can he play nickel? Because he damn sure can't play. He can't follow nobody. No, those days are done.
No, I think the following days are definitely done for him. But I think he's just going to have to be.
He could play dime. He could play dime. You know what I'm saying? He could be that fourth dude out there. You know what I'm saying? He could be that dime back.
But I think the biggest question mark on their defense outside of their secondary is Nakobe Dean. I want to see him take another step. He looked a little okay. He had another step to him. But I think that's going to be a question for them is if he can take another step as their starting linebacker. And then big guy Jordan Davis, man. It's time to see something out of you. It's time for you to stay healthy.
Oh, he flashed a little bit against Green Bay. He flashed a little bit.
Okay.
In the run game. He never going to get home. But in terms of
the
just
pass game, that's baby Ryan. Like, that's what he does.
His job is just to clog it up. Pause.
Yeah.
Just be there in that middle and just take up doubles and triples and then free everybody else up. And I think he did a decent job of that. Now to your Dean point. Nakobe Dean was supposed to be a Mike last year.
Yep.
They handed him the Mike position. Didn't work out too well for them.
Yep.
So then they go out and go get Devin White. For whatever reason, I ain't see too much of Devin White. Or they moved him around. Nakobe Dean does one thing really well rewatching that game. He reads, reacts, attacks.
Yep.
Don't ask him to cover.
No, he can't do that. He can't do that. But he got a nose for the ball. He can go get it.
So now, if that's the case, can you be a high-level Mike if all you can do is read and react? I don't think so. There's too many. You have too much other responsibilities. Now you could be strong side or weak side and just read and react. Go attack downhill. He could do that. But if you want him to be the Mike,
he got some improvements to do.
I think you're asking too much.
And I think that's the development case. I think he's going to have to be a situation where you have to develop and hope over time he does that. But overall, though, and going back to the Dallas Cowboys and saying it's their division, I personally don't think that's the case at all. I think it is the Eagles' division to win just because if you look on paper, especially on that offense, man, they're light years better than us on offense. Like Saquon Barkley. Let's go.
Light years. I mean, come on now. Light years. All right, fine. Let's I'll pull up Philly.
This is the only reason I say that. Outside of CD Lamb, where do we go? Where do the Cowboys go? You can say Brandon Cooks, but
you have a better quarterback.
We have a better quarterback. I give you that. But Saquon Barkley, they have a better wide receiver core than us. And I think, honestly, that O-line may have us just by a little bit. I feel like the offensive line is neck and neck, but the Eagles may have us just by a nudge.
Y'all only going to play twice a year. I'm saying y'all might can split with them and still be fine. Now you can't get swept by them.
No, you can't get swept.
But if you take care of business and at least get that split, I think you're fine. Now you can't trick off games to the Giants and Commandos, who are both trash teams. So you take care of business, be 4-0 there, and then you split with the Eagles. I think you're in good shape. Because to be quite honest, yes, the Eagles have more assumed names. Barkley is better than Zeke. Got it. But Dak is better than Jalen Hurts.
Easily.
And you can argue CD is better than A.J. Brown. You could argue it.
There's no arguing. That's clear.
Okay.
Let's be honest.
You're saying that. I'm saying you can argue. So then after that, I think is to your point of, well, then where do you go after that? But if I know I got the better QB, arguably the better receiver, and I might not have the better running back, but I have a guy that fits what I'm trying to do, which is Dak's going to get us down the field. Zeke, you punch it in. I don't need you to get us down the field like back in the day. Back in the day, it was reversed. Zeke, get us down the field, and then Dak make a play and get it into the end zone.
But this is my thing. we do have a better quarterback, but why are we acting like Dak doesn't have days where he's just ass? Let's be honest. Like that Dak
And what was
has
Jalen
plenty of
Hurts
days. Jalen Hurts was mediocre.
over the second half of last year, and to me against Green
He was
Bay?
trash. He
Okay,
wasn't that
so
good. But I don't know. I just feel like in their offense, you don't need to necessarily depend on like, yeah, Jalen's your quarterback and he can make some good plays for you, but in their offense, you don't need to necessarily depend on Jalen to make a break and have good plays and have those big moments. In our offense, you have to lean on Dak. Just because outside of Dak and CD, there's question marks. And you can go on their offense, like we said before, because they have the names. And Jalen Hurts, you don't need to be a superhero. We just need you to be a facilitator, honestly.
and sometimes he can't even do that. So to me, I think again, if QB is the most important position in the sport, and you have a clear advantage in that position, and even though you could point to Saquon being better, you could point to whether you can argue about AJ Brown versus CD. You can do a lot of things about offensive line or tight end, whatever. To me, it's if your defense is going to play the way it looked against Cleveland, and again, they faced an inferior offense that has a QB that is the nastiest. Right. So understood that I can't base everything off of this. But what I am saying is if they're getting to their ball hawking ways from a couple of years ago, and they're going to get home with 4 like they did a few years ago, that type of defense with this type of offense, I like that right now, as opposed to what we think the Eagles are going to be, where they got all the talent, they got all the Georgia guys on defense, they got Cooper DeJean, they got, they brought back Gardner Johnson, they got all these guys. It sounds good, but does it actually work? Whereas the Cowboy defense, we've seen it work a couple of years ago, and we saw a glimpse that y'all might be getting back to that form in week 1. So I'm just saying, if that's the case, to me, it's y'all division to lose, because I trust Dak to be more consistently at his level than Jalen Hurts, who seems to go up and down like a roller coaster at his level. Mm-hmm. That to me is the difference. The QB matters that much in this league that to me, the division matters. It comes down to that much of a difference.
Yeah. And I think the biggest key to us being so successful in defense is because, honestly, the Browns didn't run the ball well. If you want to beat the Dallas Cowboys defense, the number, like Green Bay showed you the blueprint last year, man. You got to run the ball. You establish the run on us, and then our go-getters, Michael Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, they got to play a little bit more timid. They got to play the run a little bit more. And we always know Michael Parsons hasn't been the best run defender. So I think what we're seeing on tape right now is like, yeah, Dallas Cowboys, lots of turnovers, and we're getting after the quarterback. Yeah, that looks good on paper, but when we go against an offense who runs the ball, it's not the same situation always. So that's why I think the Eagles will have a little bit of an edge on us, because when we play the Eagles, we know they're going to establish that run. And if we have to stop Saquon first, that frees up everything else, and that leaves off a lot more questions for us. So that's why I think this always our downfall. Is if the Cowboys can't stop the run, it opens up so much for that offense.
And I think all that is fair points. I think if you're trying to be if you're trying to be reserved and not jump out the window with me, it's all good. You don't have to jump out the window with me.
I won't do it this year. I won't do it this year, man.
It's all good. I think though, we can certainly revisit this as the season goes on, but I do think there is a thing there to watch with the Eagles where, look, Jalen Hurts was out here talking to the ops. He trusted the ops more than his own head coach.
Yeah.
They brought back the head coach. They changed out OCs. Cool story, bro. To me, as long as Sirianni is there, and that trust level clearly isn't there. You don't go from I'm seeking out the ops on how to get better as opposed to my own coach. That doesn't all of a sudden get better in one off season. Yeah. So, like, if this gets nasty, if this gets bad, I think there's some serious cracks in the armor that could be taken advantage of by a team like Dallas that's still good. That's all I'm saying. Like, if the Eagles aren't there, and y'all are on the way up, especially if the defense looks a semblance of what it looked like on Sunday against the Browns. To me, I'm like, okay, well, I know the offense is good. It might have a couple of stinkers because every offense does, but 15 out of 17 games, Dak's going to be good.
Yeah.
If that's the case, with a really good defense, I like y'all chances to win the NFC East.
And that's why I always tell people, too, because a lot of people are going around saying that there's only one head coach on the hot seat in the NFC East. There's two, actually. Nick Sirianni, man. I honestly
it's actually three, low key. Like, there's three.
We gonna say three? Well, yeah. No. I want
Dayball got to prove something, bro. He can't be riding off that one Vikings playoff win, especially with Kirk Cousins looking the way he looked in week 1. Like you got a contract extension because of that.
But this is my thing as well. Dayball didn't call it. If I'm not wrong, Dayball didn't make the call on keeping Daniel Jones. That was the front office. You can't fire me. And this is my personal opinion. You can't fire me because of the biggest reason why, the biggest cancer in the locker room right now, is the reason why we can't move it and become better is because y'all wanted to keep him over the running back. I'm not. He has some questions to answer, and he has to get better this year. But
he was supposed to fix the quarterback. He was supposed to fix the quarterback.
How can you fix Daniel Jones? Let's be honest.
He signed the contract. He signed the contract saying, I can fix Daniel Jones. And for that 1 year, he had less turnovers. That was considered fixing Daniel Jones. He stopped throwing the ball all over the place, just like he did with Josh Allen. Hey, Josh, here's my guru status. Stop throwing the ball away. Stop throwing it all over the place. And then he went and gets a head coaching job because Josh Allen stopped doing it, even though he didn't really. He still fumbles all over the place and throws the ball erratically. But he stopped it enough to where he's able to cash out off of it. Go fix Daniel Jones. Okay. Hey, Daniel, stop throwing the ball all over the place. Okay, I'm just going to become Vanilla Vic and just start running every chance I get. And now we're in the playoffs, and now we're beating an overrated Vikings team, and now I get 160 M's.
And you see where it got you.
Dayball signed up for that, though.
Yeah, he signed up for it, but I don't know, man, that quarterback, I think that's your biggest no-no on that team. Not even a question. That's just a straight-up no-no. I think he has to go, and then you start over. I personally believe, looking at the draft and looking where they were, there wasn't really many quarterbacks, if I'm not mistaken. And when Neighbors was taken, I don't think were all the quarterbacks gone at that time, or at least
you're
Michael Penix.
Yeah, they could have did Penix, but if you know anything about the New York Football Giants, like I do as a native New Yorker, there is no chance in hell they were going to draft Michael Penix. If you catch my drift.
Yeah. They're not doing that in New York.
Just like Shador will not be high on that draft board either. Hint, hint, wink, wink.
Man, I don't even know where Shador goes either, but yeah, he's probably not going to New York. In my humble opinion, I think
he will not be a Giant.
You know who they looking for. Wink, wink. You know who they looking for.
I mean, that's fair. But I'm saying even if they had the number 1 pick and Shador turns the season around and all of a sudden there's a Heisman everything in Colorado. He could be number 1 with a bullet, and the Giants will still
find some way to mess it up. They won't do it. They won't do it.
I would almost say I would put the rent on it. It would be that easy for me. It's like, nope, there's no way they're going to take Shador or anyone that looks like Shador, anyone the hue of Shador.
The one in that case, you might have 3 head coaches on the hot seat. I think, in my humblest opinion, you don't pass up on a great player on the board like that. But if that's the way they go, then yeah, man, you might be on the hot seat as well. But first and foremost, everybody's going to say it's Mike McCarthy. I feel like Mike McCarthy's destiny is already written for him. If it's anything to do with 12 wins and below in the first round kick out, we already know what's going on there. But outside of that, Nick Sirianni has the biggest questions. I think Nick Sirianni, he has to be a head coach this year. He can't be a cheerleader. And then there's also, like you said earlier, when your quarterback goes out and wants to talk to other people instead of you, that speaks volume about you and your program that you're running there. So I think Nick Sirianni is the biggest question mark. You got scapegoat last year. You with your OC and your DC, you got them out the way.
Clean everybody out.
Yeah, you clean everybody out. So now that everything is cleaned out, there's only one place to look now. You. So if it doesn't happen this year, I believe he has to go, man. And I personally wasn't a fan of it to begin with because I don't understand what he brings to the game and what he brings to the team. But
Right.
especially now this year, especially when your quarterback backs out on you and your relationship with your quarterback goes sour, yeah, man, that just automatically puts you on a hot seat.
All right. I'm gonna go rapid fire as we begin to wrap things up here. And they're definitely appreciative of your time. Are the Panthers bad because of Bryce Young, or is Bryce Young bad because of the Panthers?
Both.
Explain.
I would say just because Bryce Young doesn't have, you got Adam Thielen, you got Xavier Legette, you got Deontay Johnson, but I personally believe that's still not enough to win in the National Football League. And those names aren't household names anymore, or even at the time. So I just think the weapons aren't there for him, and I think also Bryce is just at a disadvantage, height, size, and honestly, the speed of the game right now. I feel like the game is just too fast for him, and that just comes with time. He's going to be a slower developer, and I just think once you start putting playmakers around him, the game will slow down for him a little bit more. But right now, it's both of them.
Are you worried about any of the rookie QBs after week one?
Am I worried about any of the rookie QBs? Let's go off on Caleb. No. Bo
You sure?
Nix. You want to be worried about Caleb.
Oh,
I personally,
I have no dog in this fight, but I did not like what I saw from Caleb
yeah,
Williams.
and rightfully so. Like I didn't like what I saw. What was it, 94 yards or something like that? I couldn't even remember what it was, but it didn't look
He
absolutely
got two
good.
receivers hurt in game one. That's not good.
Yeah, that's obviously not good as well. But I think, like I said about Bryce Young, it's going to be a development thing. Like Caleb, he has all the raw talent that you want as a quarterback, but now it's just trying to get him to understand the offense and understand his team and his wide receivers. So I don't want to
He
panic
didn't
on him
play in
yet.
preseason.
Yeah, and he should have
Why
played in
is the number
preseason.
one? It's just why he need.
He
You're
needs to play in
handing the
preseason a little bit
keys
more.
to him day one. You named him the starter before camp opened, and he didn't play in preseason. He didn't even play in a Hall of Fame game, which is
Yeah.
the only reason why the Bears were in the Hall of Fame game is because they took Caleb fucking Williams, number one, and he didn't even play.
You know why he didn't play in
Why?
that game, right?
He didn't even
He
play in
wasn't
that
ready.
game.
He wasn't
Why?
ready. That's why.
But there's no such thing as ready. You're not going to be ready. You're going to
Yeah.
get ready week one against the Titans. If you're not ready in the Hall of Fame game, you're going to be ready week one for Simmons and the Titans.
Yeah, it's not gonna work either, man. So yeah, I don't want to put the jury out on it. I'm not worried about
Okay.
Caleb.
All right.
I'm not worried about Bo
14 of
Nix.
29 for Caleb, 93 yards. 14 of 29, a 55 QB rating. 55, double nickel.
Let's come back to this after like week 4 or 5.
All right. I
It's
mean,
not looking good. I'll say it's not looking good.
okay.
But
Okay. All right.
let's learn. Let's learn. Let's give it some time and let's see what
Okay.
happens with him.
So we got Bo Nix. Bo Nix goes out there and on the road almost gets it done against a
Almost,
game
man.
Seattle team, a good Seattle team. Bo
Yeah,
Nix.
yeah.
Did you
I
like what
personally,
you saw?
I saw some good and bad from Bo Nix. I personally like with it just because I trust Sean Payton. I trust his vision as an offensive guru. So I think personally, no, you don't even trust him no more, man.
Why? Why? But based off what?
Based
Drew
off of
Brees a
honest,
million years ago? I'm still giving them benefit of the doubt off of that.
yeah, honestly,
Why?
just because I think Sean Payton is. If you ever gonna have a guy that's gonna be like one of a quarterback whisperer or in that category or offensive guy, I think Sean Payton is easily in that category. He
Who
hasn't
are
been
the
successful lately.
who are the other quarterbacks besides Drew Brees?
Valid point. It really hasn't been much outside of Drew Brees, but
Can you
yeah,
be a QB guru if you've only been good with one QB?
no, probably not. Probably can't be one, but I don't know, man. I just think I trust Sean Payton more in what he can do with an offense. I feel like it's not going to be a year one thing. Bo Nix and them are not going to be exceptional this year. But I think if you give Bo Nix 3 years, 2, 3 years, and you put some more weapons around him,
Mm-hmm.
Broncos can make a little noise. I wouldn't worry about Bo Nix either yet.
Jaden Daniels. The team got beat up by the Bucks. The Bucks looked great. Baker looked great. Godwin looked great. Mike Evans is a Hall of Famer. Rashard White was running hard. I mean, the Commandos have a horrible offensive line. Jaden Daniels was running for his life. He was able to get some things done late, but the game was already well decided. Did you see anything from Jaden Daniels?
I saw a rookie QB. That's what I saw out of him, honestly. There was a lot of dips and throws. I think the person that had the most receiving yards for them was Robinson, the running back. So that just lets me know right there he's not looking downfield at all.
Check down.
He's checking down, and if it ain't there, he's gone. He's going outside the pocket with it. And as a rookie QB, still trying to learn to figure out it, I can understand that. But I probably have a little bit more questions there just because knowing that Dan Quinn isn't an offensive guru. He's not a QB whisperer. Like, he's gonna let his athletes be athletes and he's gonna let them go play. But I think you're gonna have to develop Dames a little bit more. You're gonna have to teach that man how to slide, man, because he loves to run that ball, and I think we don't want to have another RG3 situation. I think he has to get down.
Right. The problem is he gonna have to run because that pressure is gonna be on him as soon as he takes it. Like, they gonna have to keep him in the gun because him dropping back it's not gonna happen. He can't do a 7-step drop back with that offensive line.
Yeah.
Your leading receivers: Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson,
2 running backs.
followed by Zach Ertz, the ageless one.
End.
Zach Ertz, still out here.
And then your number 1 receiver, Terry McLaurin, 2 catches, 17 yards?
4 targets.
4 targets? I'm blaming that on Dan Quinn. I understand you got a rookie QB, and he's probably not looking down the field as much. But are you even trying to get your best player in the game right now, or one of your best players in the game right
now? I've been tearing down the offensive line for the Commandos a lot. I'll say this, and I touched on the NFC East preview pod. This secondary, I mean, the Madden card back in the day, the toast cards, like this right here is toast. Emmanuel Forbes was drafted high in the first round.
What has he done?
You know who loves Emmanuel Forbes? Chris Godwin, Mike Evans.
They be cooking that man.
Barbecue chicken, flambe.
But this is the thing. That's supposed to be Dan Quinn's thing. He's supposed to be able to turn that defense around and give it some help. So let's see. Let's see if he can develop him. He need the bodies.
He need the bodies. He need Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter in the Commander's uniform? That's disgusting. But I
Dual
can see
threat.
him doing it.
He could be the number 2 receiver and the number 1 DD.
Because I know on that type of team, he's playing both sides of the ball because
he better
to both sides of the ball. So yeah,
box office.
I can see that. Easy.
Okay. All right. Rapid fire. I'm gonna give you 3 teams.
Okay.
Quick answers in terms of are they for real or nah. I'll give you 3 teams.
Okay.
Team number 1, Texans, for real or nah?
For real.
Los Angeles Chargers, for real or nah?
It's healthy. For real.
As constituted right now. Los Angeles Chargers, right for real or nah?
No.
Seattle Seahawks, for real or nah?
Yes.
Okay. Last one. Let me dig into this team lost. Colts, for real or nah? For real, man. I really like Anthony Richardson, man. I'm high on him.
he has some work to do QB wise, throwing the ball to the immediate throws. But that deep ball, man, he's dangerous. So I'm gonna say for real.
My guest tonight has been Terrence Williams. He came on here. He had a lot of hot takes, strong opinions, good knowledge. Someone to look out for when it comes to talking ball in this industry. So, Terrence Williams, I appreciate you being able to pull up here. I'm glad we was able to get this done. Me and you've been talking about getting this done for a minute. We were finally able to get it done. I appreciate you pulling up here to the pod, man.
I appreciate you, man. I enjoy the content too. So I'm really excited for this year. I know we're gonna talk a lot of football in work, outside of work. So
you already know.
Tune in, man. And if y'all not tuning in and subscribe to the pod already, man. Subscribe to the pod. My man got good work going on.
Appreciate you, brother. You have been listening and watching the Sandy podcast and a little bit of Timeline T mixed in for those on the YouTube side. Appreciate y'all tapping in. You heard what T said. Go ahead and subscribe and tap in, whether you're on the video side or the audio side. I will be back here doing weekly drops, video and audio. If the gig will let me. The gig pulls a lot of hours out of your boy, but we're trying to get some kind of a rhythm, some kind of a schedule. It might be this whole Wednesday thing. I'm trying to figure it out. But I know it's my time of the year when it's football season, so I will be doing that. I'm going to find a way. So, for T, gracious for him for pulling up, I am the Sandy. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace.